Hi, you're watching Leeds Student Television and it is International Women's Day. So to celebrate, we've collated all of our interviews with the strongest women we know, women in sport. Let's give them a watch.
So I'm joined by the chair of Girls Training Together Society, Evie. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So your society that you founded over a year ago now has just celebrated its first birthday.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
It's gone so quickly, I don't know. It doesn't feel like a year ago that we kind of like created it, but the space of like a year it's grown so much, which is really good to see.
Can you give us like a brief overview of like what a week looks like in your society? Because I know from your Instagram that you do a load of classes. I kept seeing them last year being advertised and they looked insane. Can you give us like a brief overview of what a typical week looks like in Girls Training Together?
So we run like 5 to 6 classes a week, and we really try and vary those to kind of meet everyone's needs in a way. So some of them are going to be more advanced with like weights and cardio. Other ones are super chilled, like a dance hit workout, bit of abs, legs, bums and tums, everyone always likes. So we just really like to mix it up. And then alongside that, we do a social every single week. And then again, keeping in with that idea of making it really accessible. One week will be a night out, one week will be a night in to like meet everyone's needs.
I'm here with Karina. And she is a player for the Canada Ravens who are competing at the Rugby League World Cup. How important do you think diversity is in rugby or just in sports in general?
I think it's super, super important. Like growing up, I didn't really have that many opportunities to play in sport because everything was so expensive. And then I found that rugby was just so like accepting, like in every way. And I find that rugby is probably the most like diverse like sport out there, like for women and people of color and all that. So I think it's like super important. And honestly, I think we can only go up from here. I think we're getting better every year.
I'm Ben, and welcome to LSTV. Today I'm joined by Emily Rudge, captain of the England Women's Rugby League team. And they've just come off the back of 3 convincing results against Brazil, Canada and Papua New Guinea. Emily, how are the girls feeling ahead of tomorrow and what's the general vibe like around camp?
Yeah, it's been really good. We've had a really good sort of World Cup tour so far. As you say, we've had 3 good performances. So I think we're looking forward to the game tomorrow against New Zealand and excited for a bit of a challenge.
So what motivated you to pick up a ball and start playing? And how inclusive did you feel it was starting out?
So I started in primary school just because my school wanted to enter like this mixed rugby tournament and they didn't have any girls who played, so I was quite sporty, so they was just like, you can take part. So I was kind of forced into it really, but I just loved it. So at the start I would say it probably wasn't very inclusive in terms of like, I was the only girl playing in the league and I played for a boys team, and then when I got to the age of 12, I had to then go and play for a girls' team, but there wasn't any girls' teams in the local area. Right. So I had to travel for an hour to get to the closest one.
Wow.
So yeah, things have changed massively since I started, and now there is like a lot of local girls' teams, which is great.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And there's a lot more younger girls who are playing, which is brilliant.
Who would you say is your sporting idol, Emily, and why?
It's really hard because I would say that when I was younger, like I just said, there wasn't a lot of visibility around women playing rugby league. So although there was women playing, it wasn't like in the media, it wasn't on TV. No. So I didn't really have any female rugby league role models, which is a shame. But I really liked athletics when I was a kid. So I really liked like Kelly Holmes. And I would say she was probably like a bit of an idol when I was growing up, who I really liked as an athlete perspective.
I'm with Gabby Hindley, who is the captain of the Canada Ravens. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. How important is it for there to be diversity in rugby and in sport in general?
Yeah, I think there's one thing I really loved about rugby is the diversity and the inclusiveness of the culture. I think to have a strong team, you need people of various abilities and strength, and I think that's why I've always enjoyed it. You know, there's in some sports there's a lot of pressures to be or look a certain way. In rugby, I think we value different people's strengths for their what they can bring to the team, and I think to find a culture that is inclusive is important for everyone, because sport and culture is very important to youth development, and if they're sort of not seeing themselves in people they look up to, then they don't have that ability to aspire to something that they can be as well.
and I'm joined by Nina Bui, who's from the Canada Ravens, competing at the Rugby League World Cup 2021. So I just have a question in light of International Women's Day coming in March. Growing up, have you ever had people disapprove of you as a woman playing rugby with comments such as, it's unladylike, it's a boy sport, it's too aggressive?
Yes, I hear it from my mother all the time.
We've been through that.
Yes, Asian mothers,
Yes.
they're tough on me, and it's something that I've always had to work through, kind of like brush it off, and that's why I love the sport, because like I do it for myself, and now as a mother, I don't want my son to ever feel that way, and so being positive and encouraging, and I hope that the next generation, that we don't get to experience things like that.
So what kept you going growing up with all these comments? What was your mentality, and why did you persevere in the sport?
How I persevered I did it for myself. I enjoyed the sport. It was something that I did for me. And it was a good outlet, a good positive outlet to play a sport, to be strong, and I didn't let those comments affect me. And I'm a 5'1" Asian woman, so I'm getting those comments all the time. But I don't let them bother me, and I think it almost fuels the fire. It's like, I'm going to prove you wrong.
And today I am joined by the University of Leeds Women Cricket Club captain, Rachael Green. How are you today, Rachael?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good. How do you find it being a leader in a female sport? Because obviously there's a lot of barriers in place for women in sport, and it's something that we're kind of looking at this year at LSTV. We've interviewed a lot of different women athletes. So have you found there's been any difficulties, or you've ever felt that you've been treated slightly differently because of the fact you're a woman?
I think in a sport that's perhaps traditionally like a male sport, you have that difficulty like naturally, so like things like not being able to play in school, so it's quite nice when you get to uni and there is the setup. I think we kind of exist quite separately from the men's club. We kind of have some overlap, but so we don't tend to have that direct comparison in the same way that I had at a younger age, which is quite nice, and it's nice that we all have the shared experience of having been probably playing in boys' teams when we were younger and feeling like there were a lot of barriers to now having a lot less barriers when we're at uni, and it feeling a kind of familiar and safe environment for playing. It's really
Just
nice.
finally, any advice that you would have for either your younger self or a younger woman trying to get into cricket and sport in general?
I think it's cricket and actually sport in general with women, not to doubt yourself when you're if you are the only woman in a situation or the only girl, playing in a all boys team. I think the expectation is that you have to basically be better to prove yourself, and to not, even if you have a bad day or you don't feel like you are that much better, not to doubt that, and think it's okay to be here, and it's okay to do your thing, play your game, and not have to prove yourself constantly. And I think that probably applies to football or rugby perhaps as well. Not to doubt your own skills when you're being directly compared to boys.